Welcome to r/Today I F'd Up, a community for the dumb butt in all of us. Our first F up today comes from user IrishChief81. Obligatory, this happened to me a few years ago and I get severe anxiety whenever I even think about it. So myself and my wife went to a comedy gig at a theatre in town. So the show starts, and when the lights go down, my wife always likes to cuddle up to me, which I equally enjoy. So she is leaning on my shoulder area and I reach over to rub her leg. Nothing unusual at this point, and this continues for about 2 to 3 minutes, until suddenly the lady sitting beside my wife leans out of her seat to look at me and say, "Excuse me, you're rubbing my leg." I stopped immediately and apologised unreservedly for my mistake, but I wish the earth could have swallowed me up at that point. Luckily it was dark, and I don't think many people around us saw what happened. But the worst part is that this was just at the start of the show, and we had to sit beside this lady for the next 2 hours. I heard her turn and tell her friends what had happened and laugh, which was like a dagger to my soul. Luckily my wife found it funny too, so no issues on that front. But to this day, I do not understand why the lady would let me continue rubbing her leg for at least 2 minutes before interrupting me. Too long didn't read. I was rubbing the wrong girl's legs at the theatre. Just to answer that guy's kind of question he has at the end there, I would have to assume that the reason she didn't say anything was because she was very taken aback by what was happening. She was probably pretty shocked. She was probably pretty anxious and wasn't comfortable trying to confront you about it. And she was just hoping that you would notice, hey, you're rubbing the wrong person's leg. She was probably hoping you'd notice. And after a few minutes, you still hadn't, so she finally worked up the courage, and that's when she had to say something. So I would assume that's what happened there. Our next F-up comes from user 5kfiend. Obligatory, this was a few weeks ago, but I am still paying. I like to bake, and I don't plan ahead like I should, so on occasion I'll melt butter in the microwave for things that allow it. Brownies, for example. It's fine and doesn't splatter if I only do 30 seconds. Well, the other day I wasn't paying attention and accidentally hit the 30-second button twice instead of once. And yep, you guessed it, butter all over the inside of the microwave. I've been trying to be more eco-conscious, so instead of wrapping 20 paper towels around my hand and cleaning with that, I used a dish towel. There was quite a bit of butter, so when I was done I put it straight in the laundry basket and forgot about it. This was an enormous mistake. I washed my towels, sheets, etc. all together in hot water. You see where this is going. I did a lot of laundry and proceeded to soak everything in that load in hot butter water. I opened the washer and the scent hit me. Oh crap. I washed them again. Didn't help. Dried them. Made it worse. I even tried soaking everything in vinegar before washing, which only helped moderately. I have a studio apartment. Between the towels and the sheets, the sickly sweet butter that's been left out too long scent haunts me everywhere I go, like the ghost of a biscuit accidentally kicked under the fridge. The only good news is that 5 or 6 washings later, things are starting to smell like buttered popcorn now. Don't be me. Leave your butter out to soften. Too long didn't read. Forgot to put butter out to soften. Heated butter in the microwave too long. Cleaned up butter with a real towel. Washed said towel. Committed the great greasy towel fiasco of 2020. You know, if you ask me, I think buttery smelling clothing sounds delicious. Butter popcorn smelling clothing, that sounds like the best thing ever. Other than maybe giving me the craving to eat buttered popcorn all the time, so maybe I'd gain a lot of weight. But it does sound like a great smell. I would certainly think that the smell would be much better than having to soak my clothes in vinegar. The idea of that just makes me want to vomit. Our next F-up comes from user throwaway_oopsie. Warning, long story. So this happened today for real. I do customer service at a call center, working from home of course due to the pandemic. It's for the most part pretty cool. So today I was a bit on the slow side. I was waiting for my next call when I started to feel the need to pass a little gas. So it goes, and I let go. I start to feel a warmth spreading on my undercarriage. At first I thought I may have peed a little. As a female of a certain age, it would not be the first time that this has happened. The old pelvic muscles ain't what they used to be. Just as I was about to take myself off of available and investigate the situation, a call came in. The phone answers automatically, so I have to accept. As I was taking the caller's information, I began to realise I did not pee myself after all. But 'twas a more serious issue. But I am dedicated, and I can get through this for a few minutes. Or so I thought. Then I began to feel the pressure. Rumble, rumble, more pressure. Building. I have Mount St. Helens in my bowels. The magma wants to be free. Still, I sound calm, not giving my collar a clue to the roiling I'm feeling inside. Within a few moments, I acknowledge that I cannot hold back the eruption for the length of time needed to complete the transaction. I must politely request the collar hold for a few moments, then hustle the 20 feet or so down the hall as fast as my tightly clenched butt cheeks would allow. The goal came into sight. I was finally able to unclench and allow the lava to erupt in the appropriate location. Sweet, blessed relief. I stripped off my soiled attire. I realized that TP was not going to do an efficient job of cleanup. So I popped my poopy butt under an icy cold shower for a rinse off, wrapped myself in a towel, and rushed back to my waiting collar, apologizing for the delay. All in less than 5 minutes. Completed my call with a satisfied customer, went off available, found some new clothes, threw the soiled garments into the washer, and got back to work. Just another day, right? As the song goes, life's a piece of shit when you look at it. Life's a laugh and death's a joke, it's true. You'll see it's all a show. Keep 'em laughing as you go. Just remember that the last laugh is on you. And always look on the bright side of life. Too long didn't read. Sharted while working. Becomes a case of explosive diarrhea. Good time not had by all. Our next F-up comes from user markedforpie. Today I effed up by not realizing that the technician could hear me. Back in February, my arm started hurting, so I went to the doctor and he told me to rest it. It still hasn't healed, so he scheduled me for an MRI today. I arrived and got all set up, and the tech told me she was training a new girl. They asked me to lay down Superman style, and then strapped down my arm. It really hurt, but I figured I could suffer for a little while. She then put headphones on my head and asked what kind of music I wanted. I replied that anything but country was fine. She turned on the music, and it was country, so I asked her to change it, and she did to 80s. She then put me in the machine and left. That's when I realized that the headphones were just a little too tight and the music just a little too quiet. You know how when you can make out what the song is, but not quite enough to make out the words? I also realized that I was becoming claustrophobic. So I'm living through my own small slice of hell when the song ends, and then the same song starts playing again, and again, and again. Blondie, Heart of Glass, on infinite repeat for 45 minutes. Now I didn't realize that they could hear me in the other room, and when I get nervous and uncomfortable I tend to fart. Not silent, but loud ripping sounds like I need to change my pants. Earth shakers. I'm nervous, I'm in pain, and I'm being tortured by not quite loud enough music and the loud thrumming of the machine. After a while I started making up words to the music about how gassy and uncomfortable I was. Occasionally the technician would speak to me through the headphones and tell me how much longer I had left, and her voice sounded strained, but I figured it was just because of the bad acoustics. Finally the torture is over and they pull me out, and I let them know that the music has been on repeat. They then tell me that there is a microphone in the machine and that they can't hear the music, but next time let someone know. That's when I realized I've been ripping butt for the last 30 minutes, and they could hear everything. I've never been so mortified in my life. Too long didn't read. I suffered through auto and physical torture while ripping my butt for 45 minutes and singing about it, because I was too stupid to realize there is a microphone in the MRI machine. Our next F-up comes from user 23cacti. I decided to turn an old backyard swimming pool into a pond for the local wildlife. We have frogs and tadpoles, and my 3-year-old daughter and I go out each day to watch how they're growing. It's one of our favourite things to do together. I noticed we were getting a few leeches and didn't want them to attack the other wildlife, so I looked up how to rid the pond of them. The most environmentally and animal-friendly version appeared to be one where you get a plastic bottle and cut the top bit off. Add a piece of steak inside the bottle, then reattach the top of the bottle inverted so it forms a trap. I put it in the water and came back today to find it full of dead tadpoles, crammed in like sardines, their poor suffocated faces smudged up against the plastic. It absolutely broke me. I froze and cannot get the image out of my mind. I don't know what to tell my daughter because I'm pretty sure I killed them all. Couldn't see any more left in the pond. I can't close my eyes without seeing the carnage I caused. Too long didn't read. I meant to kill the leeches. Instead, I killed tadpoles. Now I'm upset. And our final F-up today, folks, comes from user SockTacoz. This just happened today. For my job, pest control, I drive all over the city to different counties and areas, so I'm on the road a lot. Typically, whenever I see a dog in the car, I don't comment or say anything. Of course, the first time I go out my comfort zone and make a comment, I completely screw up. This older gentleman was driving by and I took a peek in his car and saw this beautiful brown dog with a dark brown coat and a light tan undercoat sitting next to him in the passenger seat. I thought it was so unique to see a dog of that colour with that shiny of a coat. Long story short, we pull up together at the same light and his window was down. Now before I go any further, he was to my right, so I couldn't see in the car fully. This is where my mistake was made. I leaned over and I said, "Sir, you have a gorgeous dog." His face instantly went to, "What the F?" In a confused state he said, "What?" So I pointed over and said, "Your dog, it's beautiful." To my effing absolute surprise, a grown woman with the worst haircut I've ever seen leans into my view and my heart sinks. I knew I had effed up. Luckily, I was in a turning lane and able to make my escape with haste. I was so ashamed of myself. In my defense, this lady's haircut did make her look like a dog, and her hair color completely matched the color of her shirt. I have no idea how in the world I saw a dog the first time. It's been at least 4 hours, and I'm still waiting on a phone call from my office asking if I called somebody a dog today. Too long didn't read. I confused a woman with a dog. That is a great story. You know, it actually reminds me of a story of my own. My grandmother once did a similar thing. We were sitting in a restaurant one time, and there's a restaurant we frequent. We go to this restaurant frequently, and it was during the summer, and we're sitting outside having a nice meal and a glass of wine in this restaurant, sitting outside. And there's a residential area maybe 25-30 meters away from the restaurant. And there was this big fence at the back of it. And my grandmother was like, "Oh, look at that really nice dog. This big shaggy dog. It was almost like a sheepdog." And we all looked over and were like, "No, that's not a dog, that's a woman." But that's not where my story ends. Because it was maybe a few weeks later, we're sitting around and we're joking around, and we see that the woman's back there. She sees the woman back and she says, "Oh, look, there's the woman again." And we look over, and this time, it genuinely is a dog. There's genuinely a dog at this fence. So yeah, that's my similar experience to that last story. Anyway, folks, this was r/today I effed up. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you liked it. Helps me out a lot. And also make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you never miss any of my future uploads.